Good morning, and I think it's a very ripe time to discuss the great subject of creativity, because there are these two other players in the cast, if I may say so, which is data and technology, which is actually forming this brand new creative troika. So it is creativity, data, and technology, which is really kind of working in tandem to provide solutions to clients and to businesses. And the way we thought we will take this very freewheeling discussion is that we'll first request, I will request each panelist to share the larger worldview and opinion on this matter of this whole merger of creativity, data, and technology, as expressed in their businesses, as expressed in the kind of client and source interactions that happen. But I would like to start with actually just laying a few of my very basic thoughts on the table to say that in my recent experiences and opinions, I think it's very critical to ensure that this obsession for data or the obsession for technology, which is driving us right now, does not take away the core essence of creativity or the core essence of this little differentiated, inspirational, provocative secret sauce that pretty much defines the success of an Apple, a Lego, or the humongous creative campaigns that have been done over the years. And how does one, as consumers, as creators, as users, marry this in a very successful fashion? I think that's one thing, that's a challenge that we're all in our own ways facing. The second story that really comes from, again, the last 10 years is again, to borrow from an old saying about strategy, that strategy is too important to be left to the strategy department. Similarly, creativity is also way too important to be left to just the creative department or the creative agencies. So I think today, this whole aspect of right brain and aspect of right and left coming together at a fundamental product and service development stage is really the story for startups, the story for tech-enabled businesses in whichever sphere one is talking about it. How does creativity actually gallop up the value chain? Not because it's a due or it's a right, but it's a necessity in terms of providing differentiated value for the stakeholders, the shareholders, and so on. And I think right now it's very interesting because we are in a stage where data is under the scanner more than ever before in India, right? With the TRP scandal, with the whole idea of how data can be manipulated depending on what the ambitions are. But fundamentally, the consumer's mind cannot be manipulated beyond a point, because that's where I think we need to all bring together intuition and kind of analysis to get the right sources of creativity put together. So I'll be actually putting together a few of these starters going forward, taking from all your conversations. But I would actually now request the panelists, starting with Gunjan, purely following the Deepak sequence of introduction, to share in a business where talent is your stock and trade. How does this marriage happen, and what are your worldviews? What is your worldview in this matter?
Thanks, Shivaji. Thanks, and hi everyone. Morning. Thank you for joining us on a weekend morning. I know I barely got out of bed in time for this conversation, but really happy to be here. So honestly, it's important to really study the media landscape, because that's what really allows to get a message through. If we look back to the days when CPG advertising was at its peak, and this, I know a bunch of the panelists here have worked on Unilever. I've worked on P&G in the past in my advertising days. Back then, the way to get shelf space in retail stores was to put a TV ad up. And because TV media was the most expensive, it was an opportunity for those brands to flex muscle and say, hey, this is the kind of money I'm putting behind my products. So if you start stocking my products, I know those will move. And that became a shortcut to understanding the kind of brand value these brands came with. And creativity there was a way to get attention, because the media landscape was predominantly TV, radio, it was broadcast media. If we look at what's happening today with digital, everyone has an opportunity to be a broadcaster. And I feel like I'm just repeating everything that people are saying. But when you put broadcasting or narrowcasting in the hands of everyone, and all of us have the opportunity to put our messages out, then everyone is marrying creative plus data. So the data that only media planners had access to, today all of us have access to our Instagram backends. all of us have access to what our YouTube data is telling us in terms of who's reaching, who's seeing what ads, who's seeing what communication. And that also allows us to tailor our messaging a lot more specifically. So that's happening on the creative makers end, and whether that's talent or whether that's brands, everybody is a publisher. And on the end of the audience, what's happening is that all of us have become audiences of one. We're not necessarily, hey, primetime television is watched by this SEC and this age group, et cetera, et cetera. All of us are very consciously choosing what shows up on our timelines, which is why it's becoming more than ever necessary to have a very unique creative angle that allows you to break through and get more people to listen in. So which is why creativity almost becomes like you finding your tribe. So while data and tech have become more important and they've sort of shortened the funnel in terms of being able to reach the end customer, creativity remains that inherent human effort that makes each communication message so special. And which is why I honestly think every Instagram post is an opportunity, and it has the opportunity to reach a lot more people than it's probably already reaching, and that's on the back.